Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Eggerding again, and you are watching the third video for our unit on conics, and we're going to introduce a new equation called an ellipse. Now, in the video, we're just going to give the basics of what an ellipse is and how you can graph it, and in class we'll provide more details. First question is, what is an ellipse? Okay, well, we just got finished studying circles where from the center you have the same distance from whatever center point it is. So in this case I made a radius of 5, which means no matter where I measure from, this distance is going to be 5. And we had the equation of a circle from that. Well, what happens on an ellipse is, instead of talking about all points that are the same distance around, we say, well, what if from the center on the x-axis we go out to 8 in either direction, but on the y-axis, let's say we only go up to 3. And so we don't have a radius that's constant all the way around. What we do have is this oval shape, and so we need a way to describe how, well, the distance from this origin up and down is only 3, but if I were to go left and right, that distance is measured by 8. And so we have a formula that describes that. So the ellipse formula will look very similar to a circle. We have x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared. And this will always equal 1. And that part is important when we do the standard form. So the h and k should be no surprise. The center will be at hk. But now we've introduced these two other things, a and b. And what a stands for, because it's under the x here, a stands for the distance from the center along the x-axis, or the x direction. In other words, left and right. Where the b, same thing, it stands for the distance from the center along the y-axis. In other words, going up and down. Okay, so instead of having an r squared, where that tells us how far we are from the center, up, down, left, and right, we have two different values. A, which measures, if it's under the x, measures the distance left and right from the center. B, underneath the y, measures the distance up and down from the center. So what does this look like? Well, if we wanted to graph this ellipse here, first thing I notice is this thing does not equal 1. And so I'm going to put it in standard form by dividing everything by 324. Okay, so this will put me in standard form equals 1. What I recommend you do here is take your calculator and do 36 over 324, and you want to reduce that fraction. And if you take 36 and reduce it to 36 over 324 and reduce it, you should get 1 over 9. So I can write that as x squared over 9. Do the same thing with the 9 over 324. Type in 9 divided by 324 and use that arrow frac command to make sure you reduce it as a fraction, and you'll get y squared over 36 because this fraction, 9 over 324, reduces to 1 over 36. Now I'm in standard form, so I can identify my center is at 0, 0, because there is no h and k. I can also identify my a. My a is going to be 3, because 9 is 3 squared. This tells me I'm going to move 3 spaces left and right because it's underneath the x-coordinate. So from my center 0, 0, I'm going to go 3 to the right and 3 to the left. My b is going to be 6 because the 36 is 6 squared. So this tells me I'm going to move 6 up and down from my center. So from my center, I'm going to go up 6. From my center, I'm going to go down 6. If I connect these 4 dots, I now have something called an ellipse. Now this ellipse is vertical. It's going up and down because this bigger number, 36, was underneath the y-coordinate. So we have a little bit of vocabulary that goes along with this. We have something called a major axis. Okay? The major axis is going to be the longer axis. In this case, it's the y-axis. You also have something called the minor axis. And the minor axis is the shorter axis. In this case, it's along the x-axis. At the ends of each one of these axes, we have things that are called vertices. Okay, so this vertex here is at 0, 6. Its corresponding one is 0, negative 6. Vertex on the minor axis is 3, 0, and the vertex on the other end of the minor axis is negative 3, 0. And so that's the beginning of the vocabulary we're going to have for an ellipse. Okay, so first, it's in standard form, equal to 1. You identify the center, the A, and the B, and they tell you where you're going to move. Plot the center, count the distance along the x-axis, count the distance along the y-axis, and those are your vertices. Okay, so let's see what one looks like when its center is not 0, 0. So this one up here, it is in standard form. I know that because it does equal 1. First thing I'm going to do is identify the center. The center is the h and the k, so the plus 2 inside the parentheses means I go left 2. The plus 1 inside the parentheses with the y means down 1. So my center is negative 2, negative 1. My a, underneath the x value here, is 4. That means I'm going to move from the center. 1, 2, 3, 4 right, and 1, 2, 3, 4 left. And I have found vertices at 2, negative 1, and negative 6, negative 1. My b, underneath this y, is going to be 5. That tells me I'm going to move up and down 5 from the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That ordered pair is negative 2, 4. From the center down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's negative 2, negative 6. Those are my 4 vertices. Almost looks like a circle, but it's not. My major axis in this case is the longer one, so that one goes up and down along the y-axis, and in this case the minor axis, or the shorter one, is the one that goes left-right along the x-axis because it's smaller. And that's the vocabulary where we're at right now. You should be able to find the center, A, B, graph it, label vertices, and identify which one is the major and the minor axis. So your assignment is on page 600. We have 3, 9, 11, and 13. Okay? You should be able right now to graph an ellipse in standard form, and that includes being able to label the center, the vertices, and be able to determine which one's the major and the minor axis. Rewind this, write down a couple notes and vocabulary as you need to. When you feel ready, go ahead and do entrance slip 3 in the Unit 9 folder on Schoology, and it's going to ask you questions about the graphs of an ellipse. We will see you in class, and we're going to do more graphing with ellipses in class. And we will see you later. Thanks.